Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to today's edition of Prime Hour on my Media Prime. On the program this evening, we're going to be looking at the concept of progressive members of the CPDM. Do we have any such members? Is there a section within the CPDM party that is called Progressive CPDM, and who are its members? We also are going to be looking at the form of the state as it is today. There are persons who think that federalism is the best form of state for Cameroon. Others think that is confederation, as well as the current structure as we speak. We're talking about a unitary decentralized form of state. We also are going to be looking at mobilization for back to school, especially in the southwest and northwest regions, especially for the northwest and southwest regions. And also, if time permits, we're going to be looking at what it is going to take for us to end the ongoing crisis. We're talking about the Anglophone crisis mobilizing from our respective communities. We are discussing these very important topics with members of the CPDM party. Two of them are in the studio with me. We have Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, who is an educationist. He is a social entrepreneur and a politician. Good evening and welcome, Doctor.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Leo, and good evening to our listeners. This is a great evening where we'll have to discuss issues, very important issues that concern our country. We'll look at ways and means of getting peace back in our country and getting our economy to grow. And like you all know, it's a special evening, and it's going to be great with our panelists, who I don't want to call now, except after Mr. Kum must have introduced him. He's a great guy. A guy, a chief from Mangwa.
Okay, yes, indeed, he is a chief from Libialem. He's a very, very active member of many associations within the southwest region, but he is a journalist and a PhD fellow at the University of Boya, precisely in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. Aminateh Nkemngu N is also a panelist of Prime today's edition for the very first time. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Leonard, and good evening, viewers of my Media Prime. I'm very excited to be here this evening for the very first time, and I feel particularly elated to be able to have a conversation with Cameroonians and Dr. Nick Ngwanyam sitting here on some salient issues affecting the life of our country. And I want to particularly thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Okay, be happy to discuss on four specific topics that we're going to be touching this evening on this edition of Prime Hour. I'll start with you, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. You call yourself a member of the progressive wing of the ruling CPDM party, and many persons would want to know what this progressive wing looks like. Is it a section of the party, or who are its members?
Thank you very much. You know, I was trying to illustrate this morning what progressive is all about. It's just an adjective.
Okay.
And it's an adjective, and you would also, in place of progressive, you would also say innovative, doing things positively. You know, growing. It's a thought pattern, it's a way of thinking. And so when we talk about the progressive CPDM, you know, there are some people who don't like progress, and they try to kind of like water down what you are saying. So they will say, what is the progressive CPDM? Where is their office? Where was it registered? And so on. No, it doesn't, it's not like that. It's a mindset, you know. And I can understand this kind of thinking, because people thought that the CPDM is just one mass of people having the same thinking cap and just thinking like sheep, all of them. Nobody is allowed to think out of that sheepfold, you know. And that's why people, I don't know who gave them the impression that when you're on the CPDM or President Paul Biya doesn't like people to think. But one can understand why. when people are comfortable and instead of trying to work for common good, they are working to please the president. So they thought they were pleasing the president, but they actually were not helping him. So when you have that mindset that you should do whatever it takes to please the president instead of working for the people, then you become recessive or conservative. But progressive means you actually go out of your comfort zone and see how you can make things better. So it's a mindset, and that's the mindset that's going to drive Cameroon forward. And people with regressive minds and who just like to sit tight have caused most of the problems.
Belong to this way of thinking within the CPDM party, and you say that what we have within the CPDM party is very conservative, and that there is need to work to some extent away from the way things have been done? It's
a spectrum of people. Mm-hmm. You cannot go there and begin to count people. This one is, of course, very, very extreme people. You can just, there are some people with extreme characters. You can label them and say, this one is progressive, this one is regressive, this one is conservative, and so on. But you see, it's a spectrum, mm-hmm. all right? And what you would notice is that, you know, sometimes based on some ideas, when some ideas can come up, you would see some very regressive people, they will think like progressives. Mm-hmm. And then when their food is threatened, they think like regressive. You know, so people so,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, their thinking is attached is tagged.
Yes.
Or pegged on what they get
out of it.
Yes. Aminateh Nkemngu N, you are a militant of the CPDM party. Is there any such thing as a progressive wing of the CPDM?
Mr. Leonard, I want to take you first. CPDM has always been a progressive party.
Okay. So
progressiveness in the CPDM is not something that you get up at any particular point in time and you want to make as if it's a new thing. CPDM as a social institution has texts. And if you look at Article 2 of the internal regulations of the CPDM party, it gives room for free thinking, for articulation of ideas in all directions. And since 1985 that the party was created, there has been change in the party. There have been changes in the different directions, which is why the party has been sustainable. So at this point in time, saying that there is a new movement in the party called Progressive Wing is some form of distraction, because CPDM has been regularly progressive. So what I think you should be talking about is change management within the CPDM. Change management within the CPDM in the sense that as time goes by, the challenges vary. The challenges also change. And CPDM, because it's a democratic and functional party, is very responsive to these changes. CPDM is not a party where you go to find comfort. In the CPDM, if you are not active, you are automatically excluded. And in the progressiveness of the party, you will realize that there are a lot of young people who are coming up. I would like to cite you the examples of very young people like Honorable Galajera, who's very performant. Honorable Mesembe Mboya is a very young person. Honorable Agogo Oliver of Mezam, he's very young. So if the party were not progressive, you will not have this kind of young people. The kind of progressiveness you are talking is political recidivism, which is what the party will not tolerate, because it is coming from people who think that the CPDM is not founded on sound and basic democratic principles. And that is for democracy to thrive. In the party, there's a lot of democracy within the CPDM party, including changing the statutes, which can be done by a National Congress. So for you to be able to organize that change, you need to be able to also mobilize. It is not something that you get up in the morning and declare. In a democratic structure like that, you need to garner votes, you need to convince people, you need to go to the Congress and place your agenda and say, look, this is the policy framework of the CPDM, and it has not succeeded, and you justify it with science to convince people. Democracy is a game of numbers. It's not populism. Populism does not work in democracy, because what matters at the end of the day are the number of votes you get. Populism be on social media, on the street, like some other political parties do, gathering bike riders and making noise on media. That's not democracy. Democracy is convincing people, engaging people to share your political views. And if you look at the status of the CPDM, if you look at the internal regulation of the CPDM, CPDM has a policy, a philosophical ideology that it is built on. And this philosophical ideology can be elaborated, can be adjusted, and that has always been done. So when you say CPDM needs, there are some people who have come out to say they are progressives. I think those are people who have not gained popularity in the party. For example, like you.
You're right.
Yes, you have contested elections at the regional level as senator in 2013, and you lost. Your political base, you talk a lot about CPDM. The status of the CPDM party clearly state that you have to belong to a party at the level of the base, at the cell. If I ask you now, I don't know where you belong. Me, I'm a card-carrying militant of CPDM FACO 1A, Mbonjo Motowo subsection. That is where I belong. And I have a cell there. So when you say you're a member of the CPDM, the first thing we want to know about you is, where do you militate? You're not a militant of CPDM on a television platform, on a television set like this. You have a party leader. You can argue, you can overthrow the party leader, like Paul Atanganji, a progressive, positively progressive CPDM, did to Tazong Ebende in 2007, shortly before he got into government. That is what being progressive means. Winning elections at the local level and convincing the national chairman of the party that you have a following where you are, so that he can engage you to carry the people that are following you, to share his vision, his political vision, in the development agenda that he will set when the party wins elections. Where we are now, the progressiveness of the CPDM is in the challenge of sustainability after 2025. There is no gainsaying the fact that our national leader naturally is aging, and like any other human endeavor, we are thinking beyond 2025. That's why we are engaging a lot of young people. That's why we call progressive. Progressive is not disgruntled militants, isolated and decimated disgruntled militants who think they can hijack the party.
Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, you belong to the progressive wing of the CPDM party, and you say it is just an issue of persons who think that they should not follow sheepishly whatsoever is presented to them. But Aminateh is talking about the progressiveness of a militant of the CPDM party, who should be that person who has the ability to mobilize and then take over from the conservative, maybe the previous leaders of the party, and also put forward their ideologies. Where and how do you intend to infuse this progressive concept that you carry of the CPDM within the party?
Thank you very much. You know, like, you see, I was listening very keenly to what Aminateh was saying, because he's a very intelligent guy. And you know, and he can take you for a ride any time of the day if you're not intelligent enough. You see, he took time off to accept that the CPDM is progressive, and that he himself is progressive. And then he goes and then comes up with party text, and he's going from left forward to center, you know, confusing people, and gives everyone the impression that progressive means that you win an election or you gather people. No, that's not progressive. Maybe that's the progressive in your own understanding, and you have a democratic right to that definition. But progressive, the way we see it, I can understand why you fight all the time. Progressive, the way we see and understand it, we are looking at the progressive way of thinking coming out of our cocoons, thinking in a manner that would liberate our minds and our way of doing business, so that we can change the economy of the country, so we can change the development of the country, so we can change the politics, the policy and the administration in the country, so we can change the education in the country, so we can change the story of all the youths, so that we can effectively fight poverty, fight violence, and so on. So the progressiveness is in management, is in leadership, is in productivity. It's not about winning an election. So So if you were thinking that the progressiveness is about winning an election, then you got it all completely wrong. It's about making things happen, not just winning an election. People have posted and have won elections, but they produce nothing. So that's not what we are talking about. You got it completely wrong. And for starters, anyway, I'm sure you grew in Donga Mantum. You certainly know this nice, beautiful village, a touristic village called Tundip, and a part they call Tunge. That's where Dr. Nick Ngwanyam belongs. It might not be as nice as those your hilly places, but it's a great place, and that's where I belong. Thank you.
Yes, but how do you get the party move towards what you carry or what you are proposing as progressive CPDM? Do you think that the party has been very conservative for a long time?
The party has not been just been conservative. I mean, it has. If let's say you take 100 members at random, you could say that about 40% are even regressive.
Okay.
40% are regressive. Then make another 50%.
They are conservative.
They are conservative, and 10% have this mindset. But there are quite some people there who are progressive in their thinking. But there's the fear factor. You know, a lot of people who are thinking progressively but have been given post of responsibility, they like to keep quiet because, you know, if you are talking too much, you'll end up in trouble. So that's it, actually.
Yeah, you say the party most militants, especially those handling leadership positions, have been regressive. But the party has been winning elections and has been the leading party in Cameroon.
Yes, that's why if you look at it from the point of view of Aminateh's thinking cap, you would say that they're progressing. Winning elections is not progress.
Okay.
Delivering on promises, you know, making sure that there's development, making sure there are roads, telephone, lights, water, schools, and that people are comfortable and that you are taking care of the common good. That is the progress we are talking about. Making sure that the economy is growing, making sure that we are moving our economy from this, because we have, you know, if you ask Aminateh, he will tell you that our economy is the greatest in Africa. But I'd like to tell you that our economy is primitive. As long as you are selling primary goods, you know, you go and get coffee beans and cocoa beans and tree trunks and you sell. That is a primitive economy, you know. But we got to a point where we are manufacturing, we are adding value to things, and we stop exporting raw materials, we stop buying wheat and rice and so on from other people. So when he's talking about his progressiveness, his understanding and context of progressiveness is wrong, and he's just misleading people.
It's misleading people. Aminateh Nkemngu N. Now, but do you also think that there are persons within the party who think differently, or you feel that anybody who militates within the CPDM party must carry and accompany the president of the party, who is President Paul Biya, the national president, President Paul Biya, to accomplish the objectives that have been ascribed to the party, especially the manifesto upon which he was elected? Because if you are made minister or you are MP or you are so whatsoever, it is to drive this manifesto to fruition.
I want to begin by saying that Dr. Nick is a very good orator.
Okay.
He has with a lot of adjectives which you cannot operationalize. Why do I say so? Because the way he presents the CPDM, it looks as the Okada Park that I passed before I got to this place, where everybody is saying anything and moving in any direction and there's music. No. Democracy is not disorganization. Progressiveness and realization of political agenda is not gesticulation. Now, all of those things that you have said, before every election, like a presidential election, you articulate the CPDM, like other political parties, articulate their programs and how they intend to transform Cameroon. And the representative of that program to the needs of the people is what convinces the people that this is where our interest is. For example, if the CPDM elaborates a greater accomplishment that we have now, it takes into consideration the needs of the various segments, geographic, administrative, sociological, tribal, everything, interests of every region into consideration, and come out with a policy or a manifesto which it presents to the people for election. Once the people elect the president of the CPDM as the president of the republic, he cannot go out of that agenda that he presented to the people. He will be seeking to deliver on what he promised the people. That is politics. Now, what you are saying, you have a point that probably the CPDM has not delivered on all their promises. But you can also not say they have failed. You need to prove that statistically. From what they took, or from where they were in 1982, to where we are, statistically, sector by sector, to be able to establish what you are trying to say. You cannot just say because you think that we are supposed to have tar road in Bakewe Menji Chang. Since we don't have it in 2022, it means the CPDM has failed. At least under the CPDM, we have had some stretches of tar roads in the town of Menji. We have had electricity. We have had services. We have had more schools and things like that. They have made progress in the area compared to what it was before. That is how you measure progression or regression of the implementation of political agenda. In 1982, the population of Cameroon was about 11 to 12 million. In 2022, it is getting to 27 million. You should not expect that the challenges of in 1982 when Mr. Biya came to power, or in 1985 when the CPDM was created, are the same challenges now. You should be able to measure progress based on the challenges that were there at a particular point in time and what was done to be able to come out with results. So, between 2011 and now, you should be able to judge the CPDM on the political agenda that is set between 2011 and 2018. It does not just end at insulting and using adjectives that you are using. No. For example, the PCRN party is fighting in one council there. A council that is run by an opposition party which wants to transform Cameroon. They are not able to manage an ordinary council. The councillors are telling themselves apart. They cannot vote the council budget. So how do you think you will run the country when you people, the community has elected you as their representatives in the council, you go there, you cannot even agree to vote a budget for the council. So that is the kind of irresponsible politics we are talking. Irresponsible politics is preaching things that, when given the opportunity, you cannot do. For example, you are also a politician. You are very much interested in progressive issues. But beyond your use of adjectives and your sense of oratory, if I ask you now concretely, where have you engaged any of this ideology in the party before it has been rejected? Or they have not shown you what they have already done? Under the party, we have the growth and employment strategy paper, which carefully takes into consideration all those things that you mentioned. What you should be saying here is not that the party has not done those things. What you should be saying as a militant of the CPDM, which I'm beginning to doubt you, is that how far have we gone with the realization of these things that we spelled out in the Growth and Employment Strategy paper, in Vision 2035, in the Development Plans 2020, 2030, and other government policy documents that have been established under the CPDM. So, under the CPDM, you should be judging them by their agenda, political agenda, and the extent to which they realize it. The program now is infrastructure, telecommunication, and some other thing, 3. So you should be able to judge the CPDM on those 3 by 2025. In 2025, they can change it.
Okay.
Because as popular as the CPDM is, and as decimated as the Cameroon opposition is, it's very evident that the CPDM will still win the presidential election in 2025. With or without Mr. Paul Biya as the candidate of the party.
Now, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, can you be a progressive wing member of the CPDM party without believing in what President Paul Biya incarnates as a national president? That is the vision. Or you have the impression that President Paul Biya has a vision that he wants his militants to implement that they are not doing?
Oh, thank you very much. I think I should just clap for you because what you have said is exactly it.
Okay.
You see, like I've said, be very careful with people who talk a lot. You know, these journalists, just very smart guys. Very smart guys. You know, you ask him for things, he will take you down there, take you up there. At the end of the day, he says absolutely nothing. But if I were to question him, we all have to go back to the 31st of December 2013, when His Excellency President Paul Biya gave this end-of-year speech to the nation. And he was literally on his knees crying and begging everybody to wake up. And everybody remembers him using these words and saying that the civil servants and people he has put in place are suffering from inertia, and that people who are greedy are not doing the jobs of which they have been appointed. And he called on people to work earnestly in the interest of common good. That is the problem. That is it. On that day, you know, he put his hand, he put his foot down, and he hammered on the table to say, look, dear Cameroonians, look, dear ministers, dear directors, we are not doing enough for our people. What he wanted from them was this switch in mental capacity to become more progressive and productive and proactive. That's what he was looking for, to become more entrepreneurial. Not just people sitting in air-conditioned offices because they passed, they were voted, I mean, because they went and then they grabbed some electoral votes left, forward, center. No, that's not it. You know, you could win. Winning is one thing. You know, writing programs or promises is one thing, but delivering on promises is a different thing altogether. And that's why the president was saying, these fellows are not delivering as promised, and that is hurting everybody. That is the point. So President Paul Biya is the #1 progressive element of that party, and he say, you guys, stop praising me, because of course you notice Lua, you know, I'm not the one telling you. You know, it's people like Aminateh. They are the ones who used to draft all those how do you call them again? Motions of support to the president, just confusing people. But you know, asking, the last time he drafted one was when they met in Boyas, you know, in a big meeting. Like after that, nobody has heard about those things again, because you know they have a way of just coming around and taking people for a ride, coming around and taking people for a ride. And the president said, "It's not enough. It's enough." You certainly remember that speech of President Paul Biya. That's what he was talking about, that you've all failed, and that we should go away from this regressive, conservative mindset and become progressive in our thinking and attend to the people, solve the problems of the people in the country, on the ground, solve the problems of the youth. If we are having a war today, it's because of lack of response from people like you.
Okay, lack of response from people like you. So you are saying that you are in the CPDM. You believe in what President Paul Biya? I
believe totally. The bottom line is that the president is crying that he has this load on his head.
Yeah,
but people don't seem to be
most of these guys are still ministers today.
No, being a minister is one thing. No, there's no question. You can be a minister.
He questioned. I'm sure he was worried about the level of inertia, coordination, and a host of others.
Yeah, but that has not changed. That's the problem.
Yeah, but they are still there.
Yeah, they are still there. That's the problem. That's the headache. That's the headache.
But you said the president was #1 progressive person.
Yeah, he's
still working with these guys.
See, if I understand it very well, it's because I'm an entrepreneur. I run an institution, and I know you are the director here, but you have a lot of people working for you.
Yes.
But you know, you have the vision, you sell the vision. But I will tell you, even in this house, there are people who kind of like create issues for you.
Yeah.
So in fact, sometimes I feel sorry for the president. You know, to manage this gigantic country with people who don't follow, who are not disciplined, who don't follow simple instructions, can be very difficult.
Yes, Aminateh.
So, Dr. Nick, based on what you have said, are you a part of the problem or part of the solution when you identify problems and you cannot proffer solutions?
Who says I cannot proffer solutions?
Where is the solution document, the proposal document that you have prepared?
It's not documents. It's not documents.
So how do you want to implement what you are saying?
It's not document. Go to Donga Mantuna. We have started growing wheat. Okay.
At the community level.
It will grow.
So
what have you done?
Excuse me. At the national level. At the national level. At the national level, you cannot engage development projects without a document. You know that you are running a project. Excuse me, Dr.
That's the problem.
You are running, you are running
And,
the St. Louis University Institute project.
Correct.
With campuses.
Yes.
You have a document, a blueprint somewhere.
Correct.
Where how you want it to be. You have a what they call in market.
Yeah, yeah.
So where is your market of this to solve this problem that you identified?
Okay.
You probably are not reading.
Okay. Yes, we are going to be coming back to this issue of progressiveness. Dr. Nick, you identify yourself as a progressive militant.
Yeah.
But Dr. Nick, what you're saying is not really appreciated amongst members of the CPDM party.
Yeah.
How do you intend or hope to get a headway through with what you're saying as a progressive?
See. There is something that I have to make very clear. We have to be very clear about it here. Maybe you are not aware of it, but this world functions on principles.
Okay.
And there are two kingdoms, or two spiritual kingdoms in this world. The kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. Okay. And the bottom line is, before you wake up in the morning, or you have to decide, what is that? Is it Joshua? What is the name of that man? You know, as for me and my family, we shall serve the Lord. You have to decide with your family whether you are of God or of darkness. That's where it begins. And once you say, as you are going to be with the Lord, the God, the maker of heaven and earth, your own Father, you live according to his principles. You don't live according to the principles of the masses. That's where they get it all wrong. And I must also say that for people who are believers and who are Christians, one person, you just have to be alone. As long as you are alone and God is on your side, you are in the majority. Don't mind about the crowd. It's not about 25, 27 million. No. If one person thinking right with the Lord is in the majority, that is what is important. And God will show you the opportunity, or give you the opportunity, to come and preach that truth to a people. Whether they change and follow you or they don't follow you, that is not your business. Your business is to speak the word and show the light, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I can see us falling in a ditch, and I'm saying we are in a ditch. We need to correct it. We need to do that, because there's a lot of corruption in the country. Money is being lost, nothing is being achieved, and so on. But we are a very rich nation, and we just have to sit up and do things right, and we'll be okay. That's what I'm saying. Whether one person believes in me or not is immaterial, really immaterial. If God trusts me, that's it.
Okay, Dr. Nick, we are talking about back to school, 2022-2023 academic year. We have seen what is happening even before Monday. A school, PCSS was burnt in PCHS was burnt in Bamenda. GBHS Munya was also burnt, and we've seen what happened along the Kumba. The Boya Kumba Highway yesterday. What is the message you have for the people of the Southwest and Northwest regions with respect to this back to school?
I was very optimistic and very hopeful that schools were going to start and it will be okay. And I was particularly happy because the government was saying children are going to school, and the AMBA was saying children are going to school, which was a very good thing. So whatever the case, both parties agreed that it was okay for children to go to school, and I was very happy with that. And where there was some dissension was about when children should go to school, and then the AMBA started to give their own dates, and the government also was saying don't use community schools. So there was some kind of misunderstanding there. And I think, you know, people trying to show that they're in control, and then we get things out of hand. It's very, very unfortunate. But that aside, like I said, we have all agreed that it's very important that this should stop and that children should go to school. There's no question about that. But the reality is that if we are still having this problem 6 years down the road, is because the major national dialogue and the special status and the reconstruction, all those things, you know, like Aminateh would tell you, have not worked. And that's why we need a genuine, inclusive dialogue with people in the diaspora, people everywhere, those carrying guns, everybody, And of course, it's an announcement. There's going to be that dialogue. It's not even a question of whether it will be or not. And then, so that we actually sit down and have this genuine dialogue, because what we call the major national dialogue was a meeting of friends, where the protagonists were not at table. It was just a meeting of one party, drinking champagne with friends, and they were hoping that the problems would go away. Since the problems have not gone away, we need to sit down and dig deep and really look at each other eyeball to eyeball and solve the problem. And the bottom line is, can only be solved by a new government.
Yeah, but why pick the education of children to the major national dialogue? The major national dialogue is something that has to do with the government. No, we are coming to the form of state. It has to do with the government and maybe the separatists. Why bring students into this?
No, like they say.
What is the rapport between going back to school and major national dialogue?
Have you ever heard this expression that when two lions fight, the grass suffers? That's what we are talking about.
Yes, but why should it only be the students and pupils?
Because that was the tool that the AMBA were using from day one, where they stopped school. So it's a soft spot. And they hung on it all this while.
Okay.
That's the problem. But the issue is not the issue is not of them hanging on it. The issue is that we should solve the problem.
Yes, but are we saying that if this problem is not solved, children should not go to school? Aminateh?
The first is that I don't know the problem you're talking about.
Okay.
Yes, I really don't know. I don't know the problem you're talking about. The second thing is that 6 years after the kamikaze, the war has become a kamikaze, a war of self-destruction. The war that the people in the Northwest and Southwest, led by the consortium, declared. The third thing is that where we are, the skirmishes in the